Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fourth webinar. As you know, we are doing this IMIM webinar series. Today's topic is developments in Agile project management. Here you can see the agenda that we're going to cover. So we're going to have a brief introduction to the IMIM program and to Politecnico di Torino, which is the co-host for this webinar, and is as well as Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, one of the consortium members of this international program. Then we will go to our keynote talk about Agile project management. We're going to have a session for you to ask some questions, okay, to our speaker that I will introduce shortly. And then, of course, a time to give a small conclusion about this. So my name is Isaac Limus. I'm the IMIM coordinator from Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. Please be welcome from our side to this webinar. These are the main outcomes that we are looking for you to get after you have attended it. So we know that usually when you're a project manager, you do not know the methodology or the appropriate tools that you could use, right, in order to manage effectively your teams in order to provide with the outcome of the project. So our speaker today, Professor Alberto De Marco from Politecnico di Torino, is going to help us he's going to guide us through all this series of different tools and standards that we could use in order to accomplish the project objectives. So I'm very happy to have him here. I will give you more information about him in a while. After having said this, I just would like to give a short introduction about IMIM, because usually in each webinar we have people who are joining our international community. I'm happy to see some faces, some alumni, some other people from that have contacted us as well for this webinar, and that they had some doubts. And I really hope that you enjoy it, and please be welcome to participate, okay? But for the ones who are new, the IMIM is a multi-site master program, which means that it is studied each semester in a different place. Basically, we are preparing the managers of the future. We are having really a very updated syllabus. We update it every year, and I'm going to talk about this in a couple of slides more. We have been recognized as an Erasmus Mundus program, which means that we have a label by the European Union because we have been granted support at the time by the European Commission for the high education level of this program. We have renewed our consortia. So actually, right now we are with the first edition with this new university consortium, and we're starting the second edition in September. Currently, we have opened all the admission process for this in case that you're interested. So students start the first semester in Spain. So they come to Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, and they study things related to strategy, resources, data, and a general introduction to management and business and organizations. Then during the second semester, they go to the UK, to our partner in Edinburgh, Hertford University, and then they keep learning more about project management and managing in the enterprise. The third semester, students can choose. So this is one of the main attractions of the program. So now they can choose in between 4 countries. They can continue with Hertford University in their campus in Dubai. If they want a specialization in logistics and supply chain management, they could also go to Politecnico di Torino in Italy, our co-host today, if they want to specialize in engineering and finance. They could also go to China if they want to know how to do business there with our co-host, our other partner, Northwestern Polytechnical University in Xi'an. Or they could go to Mexico, to any of the 3 campuses of Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, if they want a specialization in data science and innovation. So what happens in the last semester with our students is that they have to conduct a master thesis, and this could be company-based or this could be also university-based. In any case, they could practically do this anywhere in the world, as long as they have a tutor or a master thesis director from one of our partner universities, which is also one of the feedbacks that we get as most attractive from our program as well. So our students come from everywhere in the world. You can see it here, mainly from Europe, Asia, and Latin America. So it's a really, really international cohort every year. And these are some of the companies that our graduates go to. So we have been partnering with some of them. We're gonna give you some news, but we're gonna start offering some scholarships from this cohort, from the people joining in September, funded by some of these companies. But well, you can get an idea that this is a program that prepares our students to go to the main manufacturing and service firms around the world. Okay, so I think this is just a small introduction about the IMIM program. So I would like now to welcome again and thanks Professor Alberto Di Marco for being here. We're very happy to be with you because I mean of your double role, let's say, that you have in IMIM. You are a tenured professor at Politecnico di Torino, and of course your specialization is in project management. And I understand you might be also part of the faculty teaching our students, but also you're in charge of international relations, and you're involved, let's say, more closely to the academic coordination somehow with Professor Paolo Landoni from Politecnico di Torino. So I think that it's great to have you here. Thank you very much for accepting to collaborate with us and for giving this keynote speaker.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for a warm presentation. Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you. I'd like to just make the point. It's likely that the project management competences are going to be acquired during semester 1 at UPM, probably more. And while during the third semester, students maybe want to come to Torino for attending their third semester. And so first one and second year, where the major focus, as you were mentioning, is rather on for the IMIM, is more on the interconnections in between engineering disciplines and the finance disciplines. So major in that semester for students will be to attend courses given from the Department of Management or the Department of Mathematical Sciences, and related to financial engineering, financial tools, and everything that is connected with good engineering skills applied to finance. So this is the core of the offering that Politecnico di Torino has brought to the IMIM. And hopefully those students that are attracted with connecting industrial management with financial management could be taking the opportunity of a third semester in Torino. And so let me, as promised, let me just give you a few minutes introduction to Politecnico di Torino.
Sure.
Well, Politecnico di Torino has joined the consortium quite lately, last year. So it's a brand new partner in the program, offering 1 semester of studies plus for those interested to remain in Torino for 1 year instead of just 1 semester. We may also arrange for a company-based or university-based thesis. So Politecnico di Torino is second ranked technical university in Italy, 7th ranked in Europe. It's part of the cluster technical universities in Europe together with UPM and top technical universities in Europe. Maybe for those that don't know about Torino, we are based in where Politecnico di Torino is located in Turin, Torino, which is northwest of Italy. Very historic city. It was the former capital of Italy, and we are very well located, close to most of the European cities. It's a smart location, I'd rather say. Typically, our students contribute and coming to Torino, international students come to Torino, are quite happy because Torino is very close to both the seaside and the mountains. So you can have over a couple of days trips. So it's just a 1 hour drive from the Mont Blanc, from Monte Bianco, right? Or 1 hour drive from the Ligurian Sea. So it's pretty good for weekend. But in addition to that, it's a major industrial town. It was the former well, we usually call it, we were used to call it the company town for what was the Fiat car manufacturer. Now there's very little remaining about that excellent car manufacturing group. We still have a design center and administration center and the production of the electric 500, Fiat 500 car. Which still remains in Torino, but over the last 30 years, Torino has spread in a variety of sectors and has changed a lot, has become, except for this virus period, except for that, has become a very vibrant city, very close to Milano, very connected to a lot of IT industries. We do host several R&D centers from a variety of industries and multinational companies. We have very good industrial districts, and needless to say, the students coming to Torino will have good connections to companies, enterprises, organizations. We do not have, it's kind of an easy in Torino to find out good connections for internships and first employments. As I was mentioning, Torino is the Polytechnical Torino is the technical university. The building you can see in this picture is our main historic campus, and which is a nice place to live. Our university accounts for 33,000 students approximately. We do have 16% of international students overall, but for the Master of Science program, we raised to approximately 28%. Because at the bachelor, basically, we do have national students, but majority of students are at the Master of Science level and PhD. So 28% of international students in masters, and approximately 60% international students at PhD level. Right, what to say, it's maybe this presentation is a little bit not really updated, but we're close to have 6,000 graduates per year, 3,000 at the Master of Science level. So the IM is in addition to those numbers. This is about the rank. We have very good employment rate, as I was mentioning. So we are top university in Europe for ranking. We were listed first for the employment indicator by several ranking institutions. So we're strong in that, especially. We're very connected to industry. And well, we have a large variety of offering in several fields, mainly in engineering, architecture, and design, because we are a technical universities only based. We do also have a Master of Science program in engineering management and in a Master of Science program in production engineering. So the IM integrates, combines, supplements, and it's a good synergy with all those programs. Students coming to Torino would have opportunities. The IM students joining one semester in Torino will have all the opportunities that's given for students' life. We do have nice students teams that you may want to join to combine learning with fun. You will reach an international community, as I mentioned. And you may have opportunities for, in addition to the IM courses, you may have opportunities to take, why not? Spending one semester in Italian may give you opportunities to learn Italian. Taking advantage of all the on-campus facilities. which are still open during the COVID period. Students can go to peer-to-peer labs, libraries, can ask for tutoring, counseling, and we have a large variety of part-time jobs opportunities for students coming in, students' activities, associations, and so on, right? And a strong point could be that those students coming to Torino may be supported with finding out their company-based thesis during the fourth semester if they would like to remain for the full year, as I mentioned. One of the reasons why we have strong connections with industry is that we have on campus, we have large facilities, office buildings, and labs for those companies willing to join us. So we do host on campus, on our main campus and secondary campus, we do host the research centers of many multinational companies. And it's good to have those research centers on campus because there's our students can go there for their thesis. They hire our students, PhD, do research in those in those labs. So it's very it's this integration of organizations and industry is quite interesting for everyone. And this is one of the points that I have focused about. All right, so, but of course I may be free and open to questions if you may have about Torino, our campus, and the experience that you may have as a student when you will come to see us. And of course, those connections, facilities, maybe also be given to alumni, the IM alumni that are maybe attending this webinar or maybe watching this webinar on a separate date. So feel free to get in touch with me if you would like to explore more about the opportunities that Polito may also be providing to alumni. All right, so I just also would like to thank Isaac for inviting me. As it's promised, we're going to give a 20 minutes update on project management, which is my background, my main research and consulting and teaching interest. So with the purpose of letting our prospect, future students with understanding potential topics that they will learn at during their IM experience, or to extend possible developments in the discipline of project management, and especially in Agile project management, how Agile project management can be applied to a variety of industries. I've prepared a few slides to share with all of you in case you may be interested. So, and I hope this gives you a basic intro overview of those trends that we're currently living. Because, you know, we've been in industry as young professionals after your master, or as graduate students, or as students approaching your bachelor and reaching your bachelor before you enter your international master in industrial management. You've been probably exposed to notions in project management. Project management has become very fashionable, but there's still debate on what is really project management, because there's so many, so there's variety of, you know, methodologies, techniques, and tools. And sometimes project management really extends to a very large umbrella discipline. So sometimes understanding trying to figuring out what are the key points that one has to select when trying to manage effectively a project could be an important competitive advantage for a professional. Sooner or later, in whatever industry, one is required to manage a project, right? And especially if you don't have experience, or for those that also are experienced, selecting appropriately the methodology and the framework and associating appropriate project management planning and tracking tools may be really important. This is why I just would like to focus on selecting right systems, right methods as a basis for effective project management. I've been working with project managers that may be able, may be good, maybe have an experience, but do not select right one strategy for their projects. This may result sometimes in a failure, because it could happen that some projects may be managed using a traditional project management methodology, and they fail. Or sometimes trendy industries, such as software development industries, would force their project managers to implement and use more innovative project management methodologies, such as the Agile project management methodologies, and the project fails. So actually, there's no recipe, but it's important that professionals know differences between what is a traditional or waterfall project management technique rather than an Agile one, for the purpose of selecting appropriate standard and communicating appropriate standard, and putting the foundational tools so that everyone can really perform effectively in a team and delivering their projects on time, on budget, and with desired level of quality. So that is why I'd like you to, I'm just asking you a very quick question. Sorry for that, just a little bit of interaction. Maybe you can simply write in the chat, or feel free to unmute your microphone if you wish. Before I start with those meters, I'd like you to tell me how many triangles can you see in this picture? How many triangles do you see in this picture? Can you count number of triangles here? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, many, thousands. How many? Any suggestions for me?
7.
Yeah. Anyone with ideas or suggestions on how many triangles do you count here? For sure, I can see a large black triangle, right? Feel free to write number in the chat. No? Okay. I'm just trying a little bit to catch your attention, to raise your attention at the beginning of speech. And so, okay, 4, Marina, 4 triangles. Why 4? I can see more probably, right? Just 4? Is there anyone that can see more triangles? 7, Pietro, wonderful. 7, why 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6 apices, right? The 6 moles, there's 3 black here, the 3 white, and then there's 1 large black and 1 large white. So I would say 8. Yan, thank you, Yan. So Yan would say it's 8 triangles. But you know what? The right answer is there's no triangle. I forced you to write number of triangles, but actually there's no triangles, so the answer is 0. Can I say there's 0 triangles here? Can see there's, have you ever played a game that was called Pac-Man? There's 3 Pac-Man, plus there's 6 block segments. And those are put in a way that you can't see triangles, but actually there's no triangle. So why am I using this picture? Well, first of all, to raise your attention, as I said, to just put you on board. So come on board, come in here. Don't see triangles, but well, there's triangle, but that is the second issue. When talking about project management, everyone would say, oh, I'm experienced. I know what a project manager is. I'm a good project manager. I'm an experienced project manager. So I would use my triangles to manage the project, but sometimes it's just better to go back to basics, understanding that project management is composed of segments in Pac-Man, and then building ex novo. those methodologies again. So I am really asking you to try to go back to basics a little bit. As experienced professionals or as graduate students, you may feel experienced, but for one day, for 20 minutes during this pitch, try to go back to basics, try to figure out whether you didn't have background in project management. I'll try to drive you towards the history a little bit of the Pac-Man and the triangles, and we'll try to build our framework so that maybe you may take advantage of this presentation and then say next time, okay, I would apply these methodologies rather than another one according to my targets. So let's recall and go back to basics. Everyone knows that a project, it's not a serious production, but it's a one at a time. It's a prototype, a product produced. It could be a power plant construction. It could be assembling an aircraft. It could be delivering a consulting project for a client that has never been done before. So it's unique. It's characterized by limited resources. It's complex. Project is complex because it involves several people. There's a project management team involved. There's complexity of stakeholders involved. We do typically have several suppliers or contractors in the project, and we are constrained with predetermined objectives of time, cost, and quality, right? The iron triangle. That is a project. And a project is that definition wouldn't change. So we know a project is hard to manage and it's complex to manage. So when one has defined project management in the past, in the 50s, the first time project management was defined, right, in the 50s, so 70 years ago, we first heard about project management. It was defined as a project is complex, is unique, is an iron triangle of time, cost, and quality, so we need to manage that project. And the project, basically, project management is about managing that complexity or managing the life cycle of a product, right? And most of the times, industrial engineers involved in industrial management are concerned with managing a project of product development from design to delivery. And typically we do have those couple of phases, the design phase and the delivery phase. Now, when it comes to a product development process, we're used to think about a pipeline from the idea generation to market launch. All right. And usually we undergo through successive stages of development. And this developing a new product in an industry requires scrupulous and careful project management. Despite application of project management, new product development processes may abort. So raising from the consideration that regardless of applying project management, projects may fail their targets, the project management community has in the past developed two possible paradigms or approaches to project management. One is the more traditional predictive process. And the other one is quite different. On the contrary, it's a contrary, an opposite approach or paradigm that has been evolving and developing over the last 20 years, and we call more innovative, but it's just because it's younger than the traditional predictive process, is what we call the adaptive process or agile project management. Now, let's have a look at this slide here just to understand differences between a waterfall process versus an agile process. Well, in waterfall project management methodology, the project team would predetermine the scope of work. So the product that's being developed should be predetermined in advance. It's very visionary. So there's the need to understand exactly what we're going to be delivering And based on what should be delivered, so the scope of work and the definition of all requirements that the product would need to be developed, we then can estimate the budget required and the duration of the project, the time it will take to deliver the predetermined scope. So we call this project management methodology as predictive. One needs to be a predictor or a clairvoyant, right? We need to know in advance what will happen to estimate cost and time and preparing cost and schedule estimates, right? Basically, we could work with deterministic approaches, sometimes with some probabilistic, but quite rare. But mostly we do work with deterministic approaches. So we predetermine a budget, an amount of money which is available, and the duration, and we get an approval. And then we start a project with that budget approved and that duration approved. And if something goes wrong, we tend to be preparing a contingency or a budget of money that could stay apart and could be spent to recover from possible delay or adjust for problems that may occur during the project execution. So it's a budget plus a contingency management. Everything is predicted. So typically we tend to create a plan and try to stick with that plan. And if we don't go as the plan, well, we do get really frustrated, right? Oh, we made a plan and now the plan has not been done. And we try to bring the project back to the original plan by spending more money or by doing something, adjusting performance, hiring more people, negotiating conditions with suppliers in a way that the project should or must be as closest as possible to the original budget and time expectations. Now, this traditional predictive process sometimes fails. And sometimes fails, especially when the level of uncertainty is very high and when it's hard to predict accurately since the beginning the future outcomes. That is why, approximately 20 years ago, a bunch of people from the software industry joined together for a meeting, and they say, okay, stop it using those predictive approach. Prediction fails because no one is a predictor. We don't have crystal balls. What we can do is to just have a vision of what could happen in the future, which is necessary. You just have a long-term vision about your journey. But then you build your journey day by day, adaptively, and you would adjust your journey and the directions of your project according to what will happen. And as far as your project lives in a very uncertain environment with lots of risks that could happen, with changes that may be brought to the project by the client or the users or anyone that is involved in the project. So we don't want a plan. Actually, what we do is an adaptive approach. We would tend to go towards our vision, but no one will care if the vision will never materialize. The journey is more important than the final destination. So to do that, forget about thinking that the full scope will be delivered. What you can do is to think about how much money you do have on hand. So think about your budget, establish a total duration for your project, and please tell me when your trip should be finished. And with that money and that time, I will try to maximize the possible scope I can deliver. It could end up with a product that is incomplete, but that's the maximum value I can deliver for that amount of money and that time. So this process is called more adaptive. Let's adapt and let's make the most out of our time and budget, which is very different. Well, it would be great if with that budget and that time, we can accomplish all the requirements that the vision of the product initially were thinking. But no one will actually become so frustrated because a portion of the project is not developed. So those two approaches ended into different philosophies and different manuals or different books. Traditionally, the Project Management Institute had released a very important book that I call, well, I sometimes called the Koran or the Bible of project management. It's called the PIM book. I think most of our audience today knows about it as the Guide to Project Management Body of Knowledge. It's a standard book. It's the book that gives you the standard for project management. So it tells you how a traditional approach should be used to manage a project, which includes the traditional waterfall process of initiating a project, planning the project, scheduling the time, then monitoring the cost and the time and the quality performance, and then closing the project, like successive stages and gates. While the Agile project management, Agile is about do it different, do it iteratively, and with different adaptive approach. So in a waterfall process, traditionally, this is the process that I was mentioning. The PIM book would tell you, you first initiate a project, you create what we call a project charter. The project charter is something that gets approval from the board of directors or the client to get the money to execute a project. Then you can plan, execute, and then if the project doesn't go according to plans, you can reschedule, right, until the project is closed. This traditional process requires defining the tasks required to accomplish the project, assign responsibilities, and allocate budgets. And after allocate, and this is an example of what we're used to use, the work breakdown structures. Most industries use this traditional approach. For example, a project to a research and development project is decomposed into a project management work package, an analysis work package, a development work package, an application work package, and a dissemination work package, and so on and so on. And the work breakdown structure is a decomposition of the scope of work into small tasks, right? And then each task is assigned responsibilities so that there's a clear understanding of who does what, right? And everyone is responsible to executing specific tasks. We're used to call those the RACI matrices, where there's a responsible person, an accountable person, a person that should be consulted, a person that should be informed for each one of the tasks that are listed in the WBSs, right? And after that, there's a time schedule, and a time schedule can be laid down according to what its stage and gate process. A succession of activities that follow one sequence to another in a sequenced form of predecessors and successors, and there's milestones which are checkpoints, right? So for example, there's a conceptual phase and there's a checkpoint, and there's research phase, and then there's an approval gate, and then there's analysis phase, and there's approval, and then development of the project and approval and launch. That's an example of how the time schedule can be prepared. And everyone is very, very familiar with writing down that type of time schedule using a Gantt chart or bar chart, which is something you can see here, right? So many people are familiar with using project planning software tools such as Microsoft Project or Project Libre or any tool that creates a schedule like a Gantt chart like this one. Excellent. So everyone in a team is responsible for an activity. Everyone is assigned. So when I finish, there's someone else that starts executing next to task, and everything relies on work specialization. Everyone does something, and if I fail, I will be cause of delay for my successor. So I must be finishing on time as to protect myself against being blaming that I was late. So I would don't be found guilty. I won't be charged with responsibility for a bad project, and I will save myself. Right? So everyone is doing something. a very mechanistic way of doing something. And then there's also people taking responsibility for possible risks, because risks may impact on some or all of the tasks that are involved. So we can appoint a risk owner, a person that will be charged with detecting if risk happens and then taking actions if risk happens. And risks can be, assessed in terms of probability and impact, and estimating a contingency budget to manage such risks. So technocratic project management, mechanics of project management, strict, predetermined, predictive organization and schedule. I would rather say quite an engineering approach, right? But when it comes to different sectors, different type of projects where this mechanics aren't that important, and when the level of risks become very huge, we must become adaptive. So we must be changing a little bit that approach. And it doesn't mean that project management is no longer rigorous. It doesn't mean that we don't need to deliver a product any longer. It simply states that traditional project management is important. Traditional project management tools and methodologies are important, but adjusting and adapting to change is more important than that. And to do that, there are some principles that have been developed, that is, try to respond to business changes becomes all important. So the notion of agility requires integrating and interacting with the clients more than debating or negotiating a contract. Learning that reprioritization is important more than scheduling. I mean, when you write in traditional project management, we were used to prepare a time schedule and to attach the time schedule to the contract with the client. And a client could blame us and say, oh, you're not respecting the schedule, so I won't pay you for your project because you're late. Here it's a little bit different. We need to reprioritize. What's important is if we're late, it's because we need to do something earlier than that. We change the approach, and we can build our product evolutively, incrementally, and iteratively. So there's a famous manifesto in project management that was stated that tells that processes and tools are important. So project management processes and project management tools, like Oracle Primavera Project Planner, which is a tool, is important, but the individuals working with those tools and interactions in between the individuals is more important than the tools. So many times I've visited teams that prepare a schedule because it's wonderful. They have to prepare a schedule, and then no one uses the schedule, right? So why? So it's, if we use the tools, it's because there's individuals behind the tools. It's not just because there's a tool. Or they use the tools to assign responsibilities, but then no one acts according to those responsibilities, even though those responsibilities have been written into a software tool, and there's a report that tells us who should do and what. Right? Another one point very important is that, well, documentation is important, right? But a working product or something that works, like delivering a good project or a good software to the client, is more important than the documentation. Customers and collaborating and talking to customers and clients is more important than just negotiating the terms of contracts, getting paid, and placing a change order, and trying to, debating or activating what we call a dispute and trying to resolve a dispute. In Agile project management, disputes shouldn't exist, which means that responding to change becomes more important than following a plan. So basically, and I just don't want to waste too much of your time, because I've been given some of the most important references, so you may want to find lots of information about Agile project management on the web. But basically, the development of the project is to deliver the final product to the client in pieces, incrementally. It's as if you wouldn't buy a car, but you would buy first a minimum viable product, which is a frame with some wheels and an engine. And then you can come back next week to get the body shield. And then you can come back next week again in 2 weeks to get another feature. And your car is developed over and over a few months. But this means that you don't need to wait for years to get your new car. You simply can get it in a few weeks at the beginning with a minimum viable product, and then you build your value by incrementing the optionals or the features that your project should have to be completed. Now, to do that, there is no more schedule, but there's what we call a task board. Task boards are typically flows of activities that move from a to-do status towards a completed status. So there's no more predecessors and successors. There's a stack or backlog of tasks to be executed that flow through in progress to be verified and completed. And when it's completed, means it's done and it's delivered and accepted for quality by the client. Another key feature is that time schedule is no more in long term, but it's basically in time boxes. The time box is a short period of time, typically 2 weeks. At the end of each 2 weeks, we need to increment the product and delivering a portion of the functionalities to the final client. There's a lot of Agile project management is inherently evolving in the software development industry, in the service industry, in R&D projects, right? Where there's the need to developing new products iteratively. And finally, before we conclude, several framework systems have been created to help professionals manage appropriately a project team using Agile project management frameworks. And the most famous one is what we call the Scrum methodologies. And there's the Scrum Institute that can help and assist you if you're interested in raising, getting, collecting information about. The Scrum Framework establishes that a project should be having a business case and a project vision. And out of that project, long-term project vision, one can create a prioritized list of features or requirements for the final product. And then you start by creating the product iteratively every 2 weeks by starting with what is as top level of priority than other requirements. As several ceremonies can be established to manage a team every 2 weeks, and typically are what we call a sprint planning at the beginning of the sprint and a sprint retrospective at the end, with some daily meetings to help adjusting the team to appropriate performance. And Agile project management has also developed for several techniques for prioritizing the requirements of the product, to define the backlog of activities to be executed first. And several systems also have been created to monitor the performance of the job in progress, to compare actual performance versus planned performance, as to make sure that the team will be performing with no stress and efficiently. Several tools have been developed, not just for the traditional project management framework, but also for the Agile project management framework. And this is some of the software tools available in commerce, but it's not the full list. It's just examples of the rather side of those that are the most diffused in usage among professionals. So that's everything I wanted to share with all of you. And I may be open to possible questions, if any.
Well, remember, you can write down your question, you can unmute your microphones, While maybe you are thinking or typing, I do have a question. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Alberto. It has been a very nice, interesting talk. I think, I mean, I started as a project manager, my career before academy. But so, I mean, I was applying and I learned all the traditional, let's say, tools. And what I would like to know is that sometimes these new trends, they also have downsides. So I would like to know when agile project management maybe is not useful, and is it overrated or not? Or
Excuse me, could you just repeat your questions? I was unable to listen to you very well.
Yeah, my question is, could agile project management be overrated? When is it useful and when is it not for a project?
Yeah, the point is, I'm sorry, we were running short of time, so I couldn't actually add the time to go deeper into that. The point is that agile project management was born in the software development and R&D sectors, right? But currently, it's largely used also in manufacturing companies and industrial organizations. And more industrial organizations tends to move from traditional project management to agile project management. And I would rather say that agile project management is suitable whenever the level of uncertainty goes beyond the known unknown. As far as contingency can be well estimated because risk can be predetermined, right? For the known risk based on experience, based on similar projects in the past. At that point, traditional project management is still the best system to develop your project. But as far as the level of uncertainty goes beyond something that can be foreseen, at that time, Agile Promise is the only one system that helps you deliver your projects much more efficiently than traditional project management. So many industrial organizations now are using Agile systems to shorten and cut the time to market for product development. Because this allows to be ready for market with a little bit more than a minimum viable product, something that can be launched, that has maybe not all of the could have requirements, but at least has in a very short time the must have requirements and the should have requirements. You know, whether the product can be used by final users, can be sent out to market, and be first on the market is quite much more important than be late on the market and with a finished product as you would have intended for. So that is very important. And this is maybe my overall answer to your question. Level of uncertainty. It's hard to determine when, but when a project team is asked, would you be able to put into your risk report all of the risks in the projects? And when the answer is yes, go with traditional project management. When the answer is yes or don't know, try to figure out how to implement an agile approach. It could be providing very, very huge benefits.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight. We already have 2 questions. I'm not sure if you're able to read them in the chat or.
Yes, I am. Gyro is asking, is there an IPMA reference for Agile project management? Well, Gyro, actually not. While the Project Management Institute has released for an Agile guide a couple of years ago, no, a little bit more, I think 2018, 2-3 years ago. The International Project Management Associations as the traditional, the competence baseline, they haven't released for an Agile guide yet. I know there's a team by the IPMA working on the guide, and they are probably going to release it soon, but there's not yet. So thank you for your question, good. Well, Pietro Bertuzzi, I think, is Italian. And my question is about the hybrid approaches. Which elements usually come from the traditional and which come from the agile approaches? Well, you know what? I would tend to say that the agile approach is typically an hybrid. Why? It's because the agile approach, if you look at the Scrum methodology, for instance, the Scrum methodology forces everyone to prepare a long-term schedule first. So there's the need to prepare a long-term schedule with all the releases of the product in advance, and then readjusting the scrums or the sprints in order to reach that. So we may say that it's kind of a little bit of an hybrid approach. So Scrum, by definition, Agile has some inherent functionalities and documentation of the traditional project management. In general, hybrid approaches can be very useful in the sense that one can use the Agile system to run the team efforts while using the traditional project management system to document and reporting the work done for the external stakeholders. This is something that I would largely recommend. Think about being a consulting team. Consulting team may run their delivery using Scrum, but then they report using a traditional framework. These kinds of hybrid systems can be very well communicated to clients that understand more the traditional system rather than the Agile, but still keeping inside the team all of the advantages of an Agile approach to deliver the most of the value to their clients. I don't know if I were able to get your question, Pietro, and be back to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Pietro. Are you an alumnus to the IMIM or prospective student, Pietro?
Yes, I'm an alumnus. I was part of the IMIN version, the 12th edition. And yeah, now working in the industry at Bayer Pharmaceuticals and working a lot with project management.
Wow, good.
Also applying now for the PMP certification, so it helped me also. Thank you for the session today.
Thank you, Pietro. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not sure if Marina wanted to ask something. I think she had unmuted her microphone, or if somebody else has a question.
Yes, hi everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Well,
hello.
Ah, perfect. Okay. Hi, I'm Jan Roostel from. I don't remember the number of the edition of IMIM, but I think I graduated in 2012. So yeah, I think IMIM 6 or something like that. And I'm currently project manager as well. My question is more about the trend that we see that a lot of companies are going towards the project management thing. And you were saying that everyone would be a project manager at one point in our professional life. Do you think this new agile methodologies or something that's kind of try to fix the problems, the issues that have arisen from this maybe too much of project management in big companies?
Well, Ian, I'm just noting you work for Alstom, right? So, and
that's version of it.
I have experience with Alstom in their Savigliano plant here close to Torino. I have experience with some of your colleagues here in Italy. So I know your processes. I know your very cumbersome project management system that you have in Alstom. And I do understand the background of your question. That's why I just was mentioning your company. Your company is is very robust. So it has what we call as a heavy project management system versus a light version. The heavy system is much more required when you have complex organization with thousands of people involved, manufacturing facilities all around the world. A product that has strict certification authorities to release permits, and you can't actually deliver a product that is incomplete and that is missing some of the, for example, security or safety or functional requirements that the final product should have. So in that case, it's you are forced to work under a traditional waterfall project management framework. However, my experience with some similar companies, such as car manufacturing, are giving very good results in applying Agile project management for the engineering processes at the engineering stages. So during the product development processes in the engineering and design activities. So while a traditional waterfall system may be used for the life cycle of your project from cradle, right, to the end of the project, it could be the Agile gives very good results when it's used just for the engineering and design. Think about the retrofitting of one of your, for example, 100 trains project. You start launching the first one, and the second, and the third, and you need to retrofit the first ones because changes have been brought to the fourth and the fifth. So basically, the engineering system can be,
I know that.
having agile processes that runs on delivering new, instead of activating former processes of change orders and change requests, the Agile process allows to developing the features of the product more consistently and in a shorter time to market. So it speeds up the engineering processes, the engineering project, the design phase of the project maybe. This is what I have seen.
I think and on my side, I work more on what we call the system integration. So which kind of integrates trains, signaling, and all the components of the railway systems. And I work in Panama, and what we did, we had a contract, as you say, that with the requirements and then the scope and the budget and the time frame. But what we did really was to cut it in some part, let's say, and instead of putting in service all the thing after 4 years, we did it in 2 or 3 steps with the client involved. So I was kind of a bit of agility in this big contract, big projects, and I was very good thing for motivating the team, because that's another benefit. I think, of course, it was a big thing. Say, okay, you're not pursuing an objective that is in 4 years' time, but every year we had something to put in service to deliver to the clients, and that give a very good pace to your team as well.
That's a very good point. Agile project management requires very good collaboration with client, and usually the client must be part of the team. And not all clients are ready for that, which is one of the obstacles of implementing Agile project management. Because this also requires, it's both sides. On your side, as a contractor, it requires huge transparency, which also involves cost of transparency, timesheet transparency. So the pricing policy may be a barrier to implement an Agile collaboration. And on the other side, it's hard for the client because all changes will not be negotiated, because changes brings extra work to the contractor, and contractor charges the time spent on a project. So it's a pretty brand new relationship that is established, that is a paradigm shift. And it's not, the hard point is not on the tools. The hard point is the organizations, right? Exactly, in this form of collaboration with a client. So Pietro is saying, can we say that the Agile methodology also works well in international teams and with different locations? Well, that's a key point. The Agile states that co-location, virtual or physical, doesn't matter, is important. So a project management room, a project room, or a war room is important. So this means that international teams should be sharing the same virtual session. And sometimes jet lags and different time lags do not allow to be permanently co-located virtually in the same room working together. So this is one of the barriers. This could be one of the barriers of implementing Agile internationally. Co-location, virtual co-location.
So actually, co-location, I always understood as being physically at the local But to say there's also the possibility in a virtual environment with same time zones, that could also be an approach.
Yeah, yeah. I've experimenting in a company, for example, Sky TV. They were used to be physically co-located. Now there's COVID. They've been virtually co-located. They have their Zoom session open and they work together on Zoom. It's like being co-located. It's a little bit less smart. You can't take your cup of coffee together, but your daily stand-up is a little bit less, human, but still you can have your daily stand-up in the morning all together in the Zoom room and then working co-located virtually, virtual room. This could be a good way of solving the time zone or locations of the people around.
The traditional approach, would it bring any benefits if we have no choice? Some of our teams are in India, but also in US, Europe, I sit in Germany. So we have this problem of the time zones. And then that's why probably we also go for the traditional approach sometimes, because we can structure the steps.
And that's why international teams usually use traditional approach. Everyone is assigned a work package. After I finish, you start, and there's input and output. It's far different from being agile. It requires stages and gates of approvals. It requires that there's quality check of the work done, and there's approval gates, and there's linkages of who's predecessor and what is the task that has been succeeding, right? And so we need formal schedules in this case. It's hard to manage a Kanban board, a task board with activities in ongoing and flowing, because sometimes I need something from you, right, as an input to my task. If we work co-locatedly, I can solve the impediment on a real-time basis. If we're not co-located, need to wait for your input, then I write an email, you get back to me in 2 days because you need to get information about. So all those impediments that the Scrum Master usually facilitates or the project manager usually facilitates in Agile, in traditional project management, is a little bit more, it's rigorous, it's sequenced. You can control, however, because you know who's missing to give information. And I understand it's the traditional way of doing. But sometimes you cannot physically or virtually be co-located if you're working with Indian guys or the Chinese guys, for example, and you live in Chile, right? There could be 12 hours lag. Yeah. Thank you, Pietro.
So do we have any more final questions before we close the sessions?
Yeah, I do have one. Sorry, I wanted to ask before, but I needed to step out from the session. Is there any other trend arising in the project management world that you would recommend us to read? Any reading related to it, or any challenging point of view on those two strategies for project management?
Or to explore? Well,
yeah.
Let's say that I was just mentioning that one of the most trendy directions is implementing Agile project management, and it's been debating over the last 20, 15 years. Following on that direction, if you work in the IT sector or financial services, IT for financial services sector, for example, the trendiest of those directions in Agile is, for example, working in what is called DevOps, development operations.
Yeah. I'm a DevOps
okay.
engineer, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, that's why you're asking.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. So now it's become, over the last couple of years, the DevOps philosophy has become very, very fashionable. And there's a lot of work around implementing Scrum for DevOps. So I would really suggest you go explore into that direction. If you go to the Scrum Alliance, Scrum Alliance, they have been working on some, guidelines, suggestions, tips on how to use Agile in DevOps environment.
Okay.
And in microservices IT infrastructures, which is another topic of, decomposing mainframe infrastructures into microservices so that you can evolve and develop your infrastructures by small microservices iteratively, like applying the agile notions, not just to the process of managing the project, but to the delivery process. Delivering IT infrastructures by delivering microservices to clients. Each functionality is no longer a functionality of a mainframe software, but each functionality is a microservice.
Okay, I will read about it. Okay.
And it's really interesting, that one. So that is one of the directions. Another direction, which is more behavioral in Agile project management, is applying project management to large organizations. So going large, because Agile project management was born for small teams composed of people from 4 to 8. How can you implement Agile in large organizations? How can you scale up? And it's a challenge, right? Scaling up Agile to Agile organizations. There's good readings about that, on how to scale up project management. And in particular, the PMI is trying to understand and to answer this question.
Okay,
so if
great.
you go to the PMI website resources, you will find something about that also, which is something like trendy.
Okay, really interesting. Yeah, because I'm working as in a startup that now it's scaling really fast, and it is also a challenge right now.
Yeah, because Agile could be easy to implement if you have wise people or experienced people or people that got some courses in Scrum Master. You can run it at a project level, but then trying to scale it up at the entire organization is not that easy.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the answer.
Oh, thank you for a nice question, Marina. All right, Isaac, I think that's all we got time, right? Because it's
Yes, it has been really, really interesting. Thank you very much once again, Alberto. I think it has been a really, really interesting talk. And also thank you for our participants for being here. And also thank you, Alberto, for opening, let's say, the doors to contact you. I think you have very impressive curricula, and you're also you're the coordinator of the Project Management Lab in Polito, right? So I'm not sure.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I haven't put here my email, but it's alberto.de. I can write in the chat so that everyone interested in getting in touch with me, feel free to write. Be patient, and I'll be back within a couple of days, possibly to connect. Or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, of course.
That's great. Thank you. Also, what's coming? We like all the interaction with people interested in the IMIM program, people working. It's been great to see some alumni from previous editions, some of them who have been my students, like Marina. It's so good to hear from you, and that everything is going well. So we invite you to keep in touch. We're going to have more topics. So at least for this semester, these are the different webinars and the topics that are going to be happening in different Thursdays. So we are making Thursday the IMIM webinar day. And so as you can see, we are covering many different topics, and all our partner universities are collaborating for this. Our idea is that next semester we are also gonna be inviting industry and also alumni. So I want to take this opportunity because I see that we have at least 3 alumni here to invite you, okay? We would also like to know more about your experience, what you're doing in your companies. So we want to keep, let's say, the discussion between the IMIM program, the community, the industry, the academics. We want to have this discussion going on, okay? So thank you once again for being here. We're gonna send, of course, also the recording if you would like to get more information. We'll also send the details from Professor Alberto Di Marco, and see you in a couple of weeks for our next webinar. So have a good day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world located. And thank you very much once again for being here.
Thank you very much for your patience and for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.